Mark Recchi will be joining us now. He's got the coach's room, a regular feature during the 2022-23 season that he speaks of the inside look to the game through the eyes of a teacher. Mark Recchi, Phil Housley will take turns providing their insight for NHL.com, if I'm not mistaken. Rex, how are you? Thanks for joining us.
No problem. Great. How you guys doing?
We're doing well, I think, under Leaf Nation. I think at the time,
yeah, we're okay.
We got to talk. We got to talk our producer off the ledge every once in a while, but other than that, we're okay. So, I find it so interesting that one of your discussion pieces is always about the start of a season and how patient you have to be at times to not overreact. You are what this city needs right now, my friend.
Yeah, it's definitely, it takes time sometimes. And, you always want to get off to a great start. But you know what? The players individually want to get off to a great start, and teams want to get off to a great start. And, sometimes it just doesn't quite happen. And it's 10 games in, 10 games in, and you just got to stay patient with it right now, and you got to keep your composure. The team, the coaching staff will do a good job keeping their composure and try and get guys going in the right direction, and the players have to start believing in each other.
Just before JB jumps in, quickly over your experience behind the bench, not necessarily as a player, but how many games would you need to really know what you know about your team, and does it vary?
Well, I'd say by Thanksgiving is usually a pretty good indication of where you're going to be at. Number one, that's a pretty good indication. Usually what teams are going to make the playoffs. There's been a few times where there's some teams that have gotten in, but for the most part, it's pretty close to being, set for the most part that I call. A number of years ago when I was coaching. So, I'd say Thanksgiving is a good indication of where, a U.S. Thanksgiving, that is. So where you have a good feel for it.
Mark, right now when people look at this Toronto Maple Leafs team, no one thinks they're under-talented, but, they are underachieving a little bit. So I'm looking at the leadership side of things and wondering what this team can do or what individual players can do to get this team on track, because their leadership doesn't seem like an overly vocal group. John Tavares is not a naturally outspoken type. Matthews, some of these guys that really drive the bus for this team on the ice don't seem like overly vocal guys. So what is it they can do to provide something to jumpstart this team?
Well, you know what? There's lots of factors that they can. You know what? They got to be their best players, and
right.
That goes for any team. They got to be their best players, and they got to lead by example. And there's been a lot of very quiet leaders. You look at Patrice Bergeron, number one. He's a quiet guy. He's not outspoken, but he lets his play dictate, and players follow him. And that's what they got, Matthews and the Marners and the Tavares. That's what they're going to have to do. And they're going to have to grab that team and pull it along and get them going in the right direction. And, they have to play within a team structure, but they have to be leading in the effort and, the composure and believing in trying to get everybody to believe in each other.
We're talking to Mark Recchi, three-time Stanley Cup champion, who's currently writing for the NHL.com. You also spoke of systems and structure. And I think that's the other thing. I think when we looked at the Toronto Maple Leafs in particular, that they just don't seem like they're a cohesive group, especially when it comes to the transition from pucks from the back end up into their forwards. We also heard from Jimmy Rutherford talking last Saturday on After Hours, Mark, where he's talking about don't and I'm paraphrasing, but don't talk to me about players out of the lineup. Talk to me about a structure that can allow guys to be successful. How much is that coming into play here, especially for a Toronto Maple Leaf team, and how much can that improve? And how far does Sheldon need to go to say what we're doing isn't working? We got to revamp this structure.
Yeah, I mean, I've watched them once this year, so I don't have a lot of background on it, but I do know you got to get the pucks into the offensive players, and you got to get four-man attack, especially with that team. I mean, last year when we played them, when I was coaching with New Jersey, they were they were four-man coming at you all the time. They backed you off all the time, and that's getting it into those good players' hands and get going and all cohesive going up the ice in four-man structures, and then obviously you're going to have to defend. You have to defend in this league. If you don't, you're not going to be successful. And I think the biggest thing for them is they've got some defensemen that could get it in their hands. So I'd have to watch their games a little closer to see exactly what's happening, how they're getting hemmed in. Maybe it's some little structural thing that Sheldon, I'm sure, will figure out.
It's 2 years running, I believe. Mitch Marner has been named the best right winger in the NHL, and he's been a first team NHL All-Star. We had some drama here where he got benched for a whole shift. There was also, some sort of comments in the media between coach and their stars. I'm sure you've seen superstars squabble with their coaches before. Can it work when the players are frustrated or don't want to hear it from their coach anymore, or does something have to be rectified with that relationship? I'm not sure what goes on in the back door, but I'm sure they talk it out. I mean, I would believe Sheldon and the whole coaching staff is very hands-on in talking to these guys, making sure they work through things. And that's important, more so than ever, is the communication with the players. You have to have that nowadays. And when Nick knows, when we started, they didn't have to talk to us, but now it's a different game, and players are different, and you have to find ways to really connect with them. And sometimes it doesn't happen overnight, and you're going to go through difficult times together. And as long as you stay, strong together, and you both understand and you're on the same page, then you'll eventually get through that.
Oh, I'm sure like Sid and Sullivan in Pittsburgh, they
besties
got
forever,
best of friends. They never challenged each other, did they?
Yeah, it's awesome, and it's fun to see because they definitely they have an amazing relationship, but there's no question they challenge each other, and that's the great thing about their relationship, and I don't think they'd have it any other way. And they work with each other. They have a mutual respect, which is extremely important, and that's why they when Sid's he's your hardest worker every day in practice and wants to grind and wants to get through it, and guys are tired, and he's saying, let's go, and we got to push through, then that makes a big difference. And that's what the Matthews and the Marners and the Tavares are going to have to do in Toronto.
How much should coaches allow players to have a say and to hear explanations for their decisions? I understand that it's not like it used to be, and I'm sure that while you were in New Jersey, you saw it all the time. Surely there's a level, though, where it's just like, you know what, because that's the decision. Go play hockey, you get paid. How much should guys get to hear?
Well, you know what? It's 50-50. You're in it 50-50 with your players as coaching staff, and that's all you ask. You meet halfway and you work through it together. And so the players definitely deserve to have say, but it's and as the coach does, and if you can get it where you got you're coordinated and you're 50-50, it's not 40-60, it's not 60-40, it's 50-50, and you're working together and you're believing in each other, the good things will come.
So we've seen some early success from coaches in new positions. Jim Montgomery in Boston, Peter DeBoer in Dallas.
Cassidy in Vegas.
Cassidy in Vegas. Tortorella, dare I say it, in Philly. Is this just a lot of it, Mark, on players being on their best behavior early?
Well, there's definitely a grace period for sure. There always is, but these guys are good coaches too. So obviously there always is shelf life in coaches, as we know, but they're good coaches to start off with. So they've got the respect right away, and then it's up to now building that. Like I said, continuing to build that relationship. So they've done a good job, and but time. It's a long season, and there are going to be some tough times they're going to go through, and that's how that's when you know whether that team is going to be strong together or not.
We've looked at obviously we're Leafs focused here, but core players obviously are a key part. They're not going anywhere. The guys on the outside, a lot of guys are here on one-year contracts, trying to find their way. How much are they allowed to speak up or grab a guy and ask for more within the team, within the dressing room? How much are those guys able to sort of, I guess, push from within?
Well, it's hard for those guys, but if you have a strong veteran presence or a strong guy that's very well respected in the dressing room, then absolutely he should have some say. And your leadership, your core guys should welcome that and should want that. And I think that's important. It's important, especially for a team like Toronto. You're in a big market. It's it's very demanding, and you got to be all in it together. And if you don't want to hear third or fourth line guys, comments and stuff, then you know what? You're not going to be very successful because they're in it with you, and you don't win without those guys as well. So I think it's important that they embrace those guys and make sure that they feel like they're part of the team, like a big part of the team as well.
Well, one of the issues here is that the depth isn't there that I think a lot of Leaf fans were expecting coming out of the season on their third and fourth lines. And Rex, we knew what for sure what a fourth line would look like when we broke into the league, right? And that's not the case here. In many ways, I know there's some real good bottom six players in the league, but for the most part, it almost seems like a lot of these guys are just interchangeable guys. But how hard do you come back and squeeze your third and fourth lines if they're not producing? And as a coach, how far do you go?
Well, you know what? If they're not producing, they better be playing physical, or they better be doing something that's helping drive the team. Right. Because it is important over the course of 82 games that they have to chip in eventually. But if you're not, you better darn sure make sure you're either physical, you're either doing a heck of a job on the penalty kill, which some of those guys have huge roles usually on a team with, and they're buying in, they're blocking shots, they're doing everything they need to making sure they are trying to make a difference. And if they're not, then you're right. It's just like it's vanilla, and you might as well go find a young guy with some juice and see if he can bring some energy.
How did you find a way to be effective in different roles? Because, you came in as a rookie and all of a sudden was it 23 years later you're still in the NHL? Like, surely you've played all the different spots on a team. How did you manage that?
100 points year and year.
No big deal.
Kevin Stevens and Mario. You guys gave us Washington Capitals and Rangers nightmares, buddy.
Yeah, that was it didn't help. It didn't hurt when you had the 66 in the middle either. So,
oh my gosh!
So it was just to play those different roles. You just like as I got older, obviously I realized it wasn't what I was, and I was a bigger piece when I was younger, and then as you grow older, you're just a piece, but I just kept on doing what I do, and I knew that I had to make a difference. Like there was games that, if I didn't feel I had it, I would try and be physical and try and go out there and get a couple big hits. If we needed a spark, I'd try and do that. Even into my 40s, I just felt that that's what, hey, I was there for, and I need to help these guys and help them understand that that's what it is. And, if I'm not producing and, which I wasn't as much when I got older, then I had to find ways to do other things and spark the team and help the team.
Hey, Rex, we really appreciate you coming on the show, and we want to do it again real soon, okay?
Yeah, anytime, guys. Appreciate it. Great talking to you.
Yeah, we appreciate it.
Mark Recchi.